All right, so when you think of ancient Egypt, what comes to mind? For most of us, right, it's those massive pyramids, the incredible carvings, and of course, the hieroglyphs. It's like we can see their whole world laid out in these stunning, complex symbols. And here's the wild part. We can actually translate these symbols, you know? We can read them and get the meaning. But for thousands of years, there's just been silence. We can see the words, but we can't actually hear them. It's like their voices just vanished.
But what if they haven't? What if there's a way to actually listen in? A kind of key, maybe hidden right in front of us all this time, that could unlock the sounds of their world. Okay, you gotta hear this. Let's get into it.
So here's the big problem, the one that's bugged historians forever. It's this huge gap between the symbol and the sound. It's kind of like, imagine someone hands you a sheet of music, but you've never heard the instrument it's for. You see the notes, but you can't hear the song?
And that's the question, isn't it? The one that's driven Egyptologists crazy for ages. I mean, sure, we've got some really good, educated guesses, some sounds that academics have pieced together, but how do you know? For real? How could you ever test it to see if you're right?
Well, that's what we're going to dig into today. There's this really fascinating theory that tries to do exactly that. It's almost like a thought experiment, a clever way to test a hunch about what these symbols really sounded like. Okay, so it's called the projection experiment. And the basic idea is actually super simple and pretty brilliant. What if you took a language we know, one that people still speak today, and you kind of projected its words onto one of those ancient symbols to see what happens, to see if the sound you get out of it actually makes any sense? So here's the breakdown of how it works. First, and this is key, you've got to find a symbol that's showing a clear action happening. Step 2, you pick a living language you want to test. Then for step 3, you take words from that language and map them onto the different pieces of the symbol. Step 4, you pull out little bits of sound, phonetic elements from those words. And then the final step, the big test. Does the new word you just created actually describe the action you're seeing in the hieroglyph? Because if it does, well, then you might really have something.
All right, that might sound a little abstract, so let's make it real. We're going to walk through a case study with one specific symbol, the serpent. So take a good look at this symbol. See, it's not just a picture of a snake, right? There's something happening. The serpent is coiling, and its mouth is trying to bite its own tail. That action, that's everything for this experiment. Okay, so for our test language, we're going to use Arabic, and we need to focus on two parts of this picture, the mouth and the tail. In Arabic, the word for the mouth is fam, and the word for the tail is dhayl. Okay, now this is where it gets really, really clever. Think about the action. The mouth is the part starting the action, right? It's doing the biting. So we take the sound from the start of the word fam. That gives us an F sound. And the tail? The tail is the target. The mouth is going for the very end of it. So we take the sound from the end of the word doyle, and that gives us an L sound. So there we have it. We've got our two little pieces of sound pulled right from the logic of the picture. We have F from the mouth and L from the tail. So what happens when we stick them together? And here we go. This is the moment of truth. Is this just going to be a jumble of sounds, or did we just unlock something? You take that F sound and that L sound, and in Arabic, you can form the word lafa. So what on earth does lafa mean? Well, it's a verb in Arabic, and it means to coil or to wrap around. Just let that sink in for a second. The word we built using the parts of the image perfectly describes the action in the image. Whoa. And that right there is the whole point. This is the core idea of the experiment in a nutshell. If this process works, if the word you create from the parts matches the action you see, then it suggests that the language you used, Arabic in this case, is a really, really good candidate for how these symbols might have actually sounded. Now look, obviously this is just one symbol, one test. But think about the implications here. They're kind of huge, right? This could be a way to actually test our theories, maybe even a way to rediscover the lost voices of an entire civilization. So the big takeaway isn't that we've solved everything. It's not a final answer. It's something I think way more exciting. It's a potential method, one successful test that opens the door to a whole new way of listening to the past. And that leaves us with a pretty incredible question to chew on. If this key really does work, if this method holds up, just think about it. How many other symbols are just sitting there, waiting
waiting for someone to project the right words, to put together the right sounds, and to finally let us hear the voices that have been silent for millennia. What else could we learn? What else might they tell us?